All right, so I wanted to make this video to talk about what it takes to actually become a millionaire and win the game of life at the highest level. Now, what gives me any authority to talk about that? Well, if you don't know me, my name is Michia, and when I was 25, I founded a company called Prodigy. We built the online checkout for car dealerships, and over the course of 6 years, we built that up and sold it for $110 million. And so, I don't know, it's kind of cool if you do the math. It works out to almost $1.5 million a month every month for the 6 years and 1 month it took to build that company. And along the way, there were just so many lessons, so many ups and downs that I think don't make it into the online social media world of today. Today is all about showing off the yachts and the fancy cars and things like that. And in this video, I want to have more of a heart-to-heart to you and just be like, hey, here's what it actually takes. Here's what you're signing up for. And here are maybe some things that I've learned along the way that might help you. I saw another entrepreneur that did a video like this, and he opened talking about video games and how many of the most successful entrepreneurs that he sees online or that he's met were into video games or addicted to video games. And that really resonated with me. I didn't have a great childhood, and so growing up, video games were my escape. And my favorite game by far was the Final Fantasy series. I was such a nerd. I wrote my college application essay on Final Fantasy VII and how it changed my life. Not surprisingly, every college except one rejected me. But I ended up going to school to make video games. And my whole life passion when I was 17 was just to go to school, get a computer science degree, and make video games. And the way that I got into business was sort of out of necessity in many ways. I had to pay for my own college. My parents didn't have enough money to pay for it. And so I needed a way to make money while going to college, and starting a business just seemed like the best way to do that at the time. What very quickly happened is I started to look at building a business the same way I would look at my video games. And that in the video game, you want to get the best character with the best armor and the best weapon and the best spells, so you can go take on bigger and badder bosses. In many ways, business became my video game. I wanted the best landing page, and I wanted the best marketing campaigns, and I wanted the best sales pitch, and I wanted the best product. And just the process of incrementally leveling up these different areas of my business and myself, there was a lot of personal development work there, really for, I don't know, probably almost close to a decade, actually replaced my love for video games to the point where I wasn't even playing video games most of my late teenage years and early 20s. I was just playing this game of business and treating it like a video game. And I think there's something really true in this process that is maybe lost in today's flashy entrepreneurship culture and flashy entrepreneurship vibe that you get on social media. Social media is all about, hey, get to $10,000 a month in 30 days, or the fastest way to become a millionaire and things like that. And, there are real shortcuts in life, and hopefully in this video I'll explain some of them. But the reality is a lot of becoming successful is just this daily grind. It's this, you wake up, you put in the work, try to get 1% better, level up one little aspect of your character or your business or whatever. And over time, these things do compound. It's something that takes a while. And in the same way, if you were playing your favorite video game, you wouldn't expect, maybe you're an hour into the video game, level 3, you've got some basic weapons and stuff. You wouldn't expect that you can go beat the final boss. In fact, if you did beat the final boss, you'd kind of be like, man, this game sucks. This is not fun, and it's over already. Business and succeeding in life is kind of like that, in that your goal of making millions of dollars and everything else is sort of your final boss. But the reality is you're probably level 3, level 4, you're just starting out. And I think it's really healthy to give yourself time on the journey. It's not something that you probably want to hear. It's not something that I would have ever wanted to hear. But the reality is, in my personal journey, I started business when I was 17 years old. And I had a couple businesses that did pretty well. And then the last business, Prodigy, that we sold for $110 million, obviously did very well. But I sold that when I was 31 years old. So there's 14 years of leveling up, putting in the grind, failing, and learning from my mistakes that I think, again, is just sort of not sexy enough to sell on social media these days, so you don't hear about it as much. And the reality is, it is just, it's a long journey, and one that you're signing up for if you want to go down this path of actually becoming like wildly successful at a young age. And maybe another part of this is that I think doesn't make it onto the social media side of things, and that you probably don't see if you're just watching videos of entrepreneurs and things like that, is really the sacrifices that come along the journey. There was this weird phenomenon for me, especially running my last startup, where there are literally like months and quarters and years that just I almost have no memories of in a weird way. It would be like I would be dealing with this problem, and I'd kind of blink and like 6 months were gone. And in the meantime, I'd like missed birthdays, I'd missed hanging out with friends, I'd missed doing all the stuff that you might expect to do in your 20s. As I was living in San Francisco at the time, and it was just this like time warp phenomenon where building the business became an obsession that never left me, that I was always thinking about. And I think this level of obsession is in every successful person. Like it is what it takes to win, but it has some real drawbacks. I remember very vividly, I was in Hawaii with my girlfriend at the time, now my wife of almost 5 years, and we're in Kauai, and it's beautiful, beautiful sunny days, crystal clear water. We're on the boat, we're swimming around, there was turtles and everything, and I'm just like numb inside. There's no joy, there's no happiness. I try to smile because I want my girlfriend to like not think I'm a psycho, and I want to smile for the photos and things like that. But in my back of my mind, I'm thinking about that customer that might cancel, that new product feature that is late, and this sort of obsession is what it takes to win. But it's such a big cost to life, and I think if you're not willing to actually allow your business and your journey to completely, overwhelmingly consume you, what will probably happen is you'll treat it like a nice to have, but then you'll have these other things that you're working on, whether it's building a good social circle or dating and things like that. And the reality is, from like basically 17 until I would say probably like 28, 29 years old, I really didn't do any of that. Like I didn't party in college at all. I had very few friends in college. I had like one or two close friends in my early and mid 20s, but I was basically just heads down working on the business. And it sucked. Like, if I'm being honest, it's not that I wouldn't do anything differently. Certainly if I look at my life now, like, and I don't want to make this like a woe is me video. Like I'm so lucky to be living the life that I'm living, and I'm so fortunate. But it does come at a real cost. And my hope is that in this video, you can kind of understand that and understand what you're getting into. Now a lot of entrepreneurs come to me and say, hey, I want to start a business, I want to start a startup. And I think it's easy to want to do that because it's so like glamorized online. But my advice to people that always ask me, like, how can I start a startup? Should I start a startup? I always try to convince them actually not to do it. Because my hope is that if I can just outline all of the negative things that they're stepping into, and if that's enough to actually convince them not to do it, then I've probably saved them like a minimum 2 to 5 years of like real heartache and struggle. And so I think it's actually sort of an ironic thing when everyone comes to me and says, I want to start a startup. I just try to convince them not to do it, and that has like a pretty high success rate. And then the ones that actually have, like, after my little heart to heart, still gone on to do it and have all been like really successful actually. But it's one of those things where you've just got to like know what you're getting into and know that it's not going to be a year, it's not going to be 2 years, it's going to be 5-10 years of your life, really, where you're just putting in this grind. And it's a super rewarding journey, but it's one that will test you. But probably the thing that makes entrepreneurship the hardest thing to win at, and the reason why so many people end up either giving up or sort of like going through the motions but not really succeeding, is this creeping doubt. And it's not a doubt that they're not good enough or anything like that. I mean, it is like everyone has these deep doubts, like I'm not good enough. What if I fail? Things like that. But I would say the number one doubt that I dealt with and that you'll be dealing with as an entrepreneur is really, what if it's all not worth it? Like, what if you miss the birthdays, you miss the parties, you miss dating, you miss all these big parts of life 5-10 years later, and you're still broke and nothing's really changed? And this creeping, nagging doubt of like, what if it's just not worth it? What if it all fails? I would say is the hardest part of being an entrepreneur, honestly. And it's something that you honestly just have to deal with. It doesn't go away. It doesn't. The only way that you will actually know if it was worth it in the end is if you hit your goal. Having said that, I do think people kind of underestimate the positive impacts of being an entrepreneur. I mean, yes, your first business probably won't succeed, or if it does, it certainly probably won't hit the targets that you're aiming for. But it's not just your financial situation that's changing when you're an entrepreneur. The actual skills that you're building are so valuable. And it's kind of like, in my video game metaphor, like, sure, you may, lose to one boss or mini boss or something, but then you come back later and you're leveled up more and you have better skills, better weapons, and you're able to take on that boss that you couldn't previously take. And so what ends up actually happening is it's not like a binary thing. Success in entrepreneurship is not either win or fail. It's really like continue or give up. And as long as you keep continuing and you level up, you're learning more skills, you're getting better at your craft, eventually you're able to take on those bosses and win this game. But for me, treating it like a game does help alleviate some of these really negative downsides. The other thing that I would say that probably had the biggest impact on my life is trying to build a community of like-minded people that are going through the same thing. I was actually just talking with a founder last night that I met at this event, and I was like, hey, how many other founders do you know? How many CEOs are you meeting with regularly to talk about your problems and what's going on? And he was like, I don't know any. And I was like, man, that's really dangerous, because you're going on this incredibly taxing, incredibly stressful journey with no support system. It's the same way like people don't really solo climb Everest. Maybe the super crazy people do, but most people go there with Sherpas, with guides, with other like groups. And so you're doing this incredibly hard thing together. And entrepreneurship is no different. You really want to build a community of people who are going through exactly what you're going through. So that is not like you're the CEO and then you're talking with other sales managers. Like, you really want to be meeting other founders, other CEOs, and catching up with them and just sort of sharing what's going on with your life in a very transparent and vulnerable way, so that they can also share what's going on in their life. And you share tips about this game that you're playing and what's working for you and what's working for them, and you guys level up together. And this process of building a community isn't hard, but it's one of the most important things that you can do to actually propel yourself forward. And so, in some closing thoughts, I hope this video has been helpful in sort of chatting a little bit about my journey and maybe some of the sacrifices and drawbacks that are to entrepreneurship. Don't get me wrong. Now I am traveling the world and racing supercars and all that fun stuff, but that kind of stuff happens after your journey. It's not the sort of thing that you see on Instagram where it's part of the entrepreneurship journey. The entrepreneurship journey is heads down, sort of grinding, failing, and continuing until you get to the end game, and then you can kind of enjoy all these parts of life. Having said that, there are different paths that you can take that make this either an easy game or a hard game. And I think one of the most important decisions is really like, how are you going to get to your end result? And so it's too much for this video, but I did just do a deep dive on the smartest way to make your first million as a beginner entrepreneur. I will put the link over here. So I hope that's helpful as well. And thanks for watching.